Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It was suggested by my table earlier that I just go and sit down and provide everybody with free beer and mojitos. I think that opportunity's passed. I was talking to somebody earlier, and I've had experience in the brewing industry 3 times so far. The first was 50 years ago, believe it or not. I had a very hard paper round. And my dad took me around a brewery, a local brewery, where he was a customs and excise officer. And I remember the smell of the malted barley, you know, the grist. I remember the scabby cats that I was told occasionally fell into the brew. Nobody told me what happened with them afterwards. I remember the really bitter taste of a lump of yeast that my father gave me. I was 7, and he said it would make my hair curly. Well, it did for a bit. But above all, I remember a really sort of friendly discussion going on between my father and the shift brewer. And it must have made an impression. I didn't know what they were talking about, but years later I decided to join the brewing industry. So in 1984 I started as a youngish research chemist working on flavour and microbiology. And I stayed with the industry for about 7 years, and then I left to do other things. And then about 4 or 5 months ago I started with the industry again. It's still very friendly. The vessels have got bigger, but as you can see from this picture, the cats are less scabby. So I'm really grateful for PARN for giving me this opportunity just to talk about diversification and where we've come, and what the changes have been since I started in 1984, and what the challenges are going forward, and what our response is going to be. I started about I've just done my 100 days with the Institute, so I've had a bit of a look, and I've got a feel for where we're going. So firstly, what does the Institute do? And like a number of you, we're the leading professional body for brewers and distillers in the world, with 5,000 members, so we're quite small. We turn over just under 2 million. We're spread over 90 countries. We have brewers in Nepal, we have brewers in Mongolia. We have partnership understandings with other professional associations, universities, research institutes around the world. And we consider ourselves to be the global leading provider of professional qualifications for brewing and distilling. And we're also, like many of you, a significant publisher. So we publish a magazine, and we publish the Journal of the Institute of Brewing, which we've been doing since we started, which was 1886. So what's happened to the industry, the membership, the technology between when I started in 1984 and now, 2016? Well, and many of you will have seen this rise. 1984, the UK market was dominated by the big 6 brewers, and they actually accounted for 75% of the market, so it was a real oligopoly. And then we move on, about 25 years or so, and we see that there's been further consolidation in the industry. There's been much more internationalisation of the big brewers, and I saw that Margaret had Sad Miller as one of her customers, so there's some interesting changes there which I'll touch on. But what we have seen is the growth of the microbrewer, and we've seen the growth of the microbrewer. If any of you are into craft beer, we've seen this actually, it's a worldwide phenomenon. And you can see the graph up there actually shows the change between 2000 and 2013, the net change in the number of breweries. And we're now around about 1,700 breweries in the UK, that's the greatest number since the 1930s. So our membership has also changed. So when I was first joined the Institute of Brewing, it then was in 1984, we had about 3,500 members. 15% were overseas, 4% were female. We're a very male-dominated industry. And we had about 125 exam registrations a year. We fast forward to 2016, and the UK is actually, UK and Ireland now account for 45% of our members, so we've grown significantly internationally. We now have 15%, you'll be pleased, I see there's many, you know, we've got a good gender balance in the audience, so you'll be pleased to see that we've improved the gender balance in the industry. And we have, last year we did over 3,000 exam registrations, so we've grown significantly. And then the third change we've really seen is the technology. Now, in 1984 when I started, there was a senior manager who was a technical manager, probably about my age now, who was given a new PC, latest model, and he put it under a cardboard box so he wouldn't have to look at it. He was a real technophobe. Unbeknown to him, we actually removed it and we used it for other things. When he retired, we said, look, Frank, it's gone. What we've seen now is a huge explosion in technology, which was mentioned earlier. I mean, a lot of things have been delivered on the tablet and by Wi-Fi. And I went to a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and I was surprised to think that actually 10 years ago there were no tablets. The iPad was invented in 2006, and we tend to forget that. So we've seen Wi-Fi, cloud computing, tablet computing, a whole range of social media in that time. So also in that time, we've seen our revenue split. So going back to 10 years when the iPad was invented, 2006, we had membership was still a significant portion of what we were about. And we also had no trading income at all as well. And over those 10 years, we've doubled our income. So we've gone from about 0.9 to under $1 million to nearly 2 million. And our biggest earner is now our qualifications scheme. So we earn around about 600,000 from our qualifications. And we also now have a trading income. So in 2007, we bought the Beer Academy. I've got a very poor job, really. And I'll come back to that. So examinations is really so this is the change in revenue split. So you can see examination income has gone up significantly. So in 1984, we basically did two qualifications. We did the Master Brewer and the Diploma Brewer. And then we fast forward to 2006, and what we've done, we've actually extended the depth of qualifications. So now we do 4 levels of qualification, so we can actually appeal to newcomers. And this has also provided a mechanism for us to engage with companies like Diageo, for example, who want to train their non-technical people. So last year we had somebody who did the fundamentals of distilling, and the person who came top was an HR manager, not a technical manager. So secondly, we've diversified across the piece. So now we do brewing, we do distilling, we do malting. And thirdly, we've also extended it into languages. So we now do a number of language options. We do Japanese, we do Spanish, we do French. Last year, 5% of our examination candidates took exams in languages other than English. And there's now demand for Portuguese, for Chinese. So next week I'm going to Guangdong province because we've got a potential partnership arrangement there. And the other thing we've done is we're actually extending into areas of alternative raw material production, so that's to appeal to the African market, so whether you use maize, millet and sorghum instead of malted barley. So that's sort of a bit about our history and how we've grown, but we now have 2 big challenges. One is the polarisation of the market, and the second is changing membership demographic. I think it was Andy that said earlier about how we're going to manage new members and the new generation. So here's the reference to Sab Miller. Last November, we had AB InBev, who are the biggest brewer in the world with a turnover of 43 billion, announced they were taking over Sab Miller, a mere 22 billion. And that's going to go through in July. And the worry for us is that we're now seeing a consolidation where that one company will have half of the profit and 2/3 of the volume of all the beer in the world. That's big. The worry for us is that when you actually look at the split of members in those 2 companies, the big company, AB InBev, has got more employees. It accounts for about 60% of the employees, but only 15% of our membership. So if our membership goes down to the level of AB InBev rather than stays up at Sab Miller, then we're going to see a complete elimination of our surplus, which is about £200,000. So that will limit our investment significantly. Furthermore, the areas in the beer world which are growing are Africa, India, Asia Pacific areas, and that's where Sabmiller is strong. So we may also lose our penetration into those markets. So that's a double worry. That's the bad news. Hopefully, the other angle, and this is exemplified by this graph, is the growth of the craft brewers. And this gives you a good idea. This is what's happened in America. So we've seen a real tail of the traditional, the big breweries, and a massive increase, particularly over the last 5 or 10 years, of the craft brewing sector. So with a bit of luck, we'll be able to sell our products to the craft sector. So the second challenge we have, alluded to earlier by Andy, is the change in the membership demographics. So this is these are our members, split by age group. We actually, I don't know about you guys, but people stay with us a long time. We have people stay 40, 50 years. We have members we have members over 100. So they stay with us a long time. And then we have our gender and age balance, and we can see that that we have a lot of members who are under 40 coming in, and we also have, in the under 40s, a much higher percentage of female members than we did before. So our demographic is changing. Now, in my view, to maintain our growth to a reasonable level, we are going to have about another 1,000 members over the next 10 years, and that's without replacing the people who leave. So we've got a significant challenge on our hand there. And again, referring to what Andy said, the new generation, the millennial generation, are the people that we want to attract. They've been variously characterised as technologically savvy, civic-orientated, liberal and compassionate, practical, results, team-oriented, and particularly interesting, very little tolerance for services that don't continuously and reliably add value. So we have to find a real way of engaging with this membership demographic. And frankly, for an organisation that's been around since 1886, where we have quite an aged body of trustees and council, it's not easy to move at the speed that we need to go. So we have 3 potential responses. Firstly is about segmentation and customisation, and the way that I'm viewing this is, and I probably will be shot for this in terms of stereotyping, I mean, particularly as I went to a brewing conference in Ghent recently, and I was raced to the conference by a 91-year-old professor who's been a member since before I was born, and he beat me, and then he did 2 seminars. But broadly, I think we can characterise our members as going through the undecided or uncommitted, where growth is potentially low, the early career, where we need to encourage them to perform, and this is where a lot of the training will occur. And I see a very high growth potential there in terms of revenue. Then I think we have what I've called the changes, so people who are changing maybe functions within the organisation, where we have the opportunity for short courses to up their skill levels. Then the specialists, where I see we have consolidation and potential CPD opportunities. And then we move into a different set of categories, what I've called the giving, the wise, and the beneficiaries. I'm looking forward to becoming wise. And I see that there's potential for an additional set of training for people who really want to mentor the younger people coming through. And I've talked to our older members about this, and there's a real thirst to actually add something back, but they actually need to know how to do it, and they need the opportunities. And then the wise is where our institutional memory lies, and then we have what I call beneficiaries. So we actually have a beneficiary fund, and that's where we give back, we celebrate, and we care for our members. And I think if our members can see that there is a process all the way through, and that they're going to be engaged at every level in an appropriate, let's call it a product, if we're going to look at it commercially, then I think that we will win out. And then the bottom sector is the new entrants, and that goes all the way through. And I'm looking here particularly at the craft brewing sector, who are coming in from other industries. Quite often somebody gets a redundancy payment, they want to start a craft brewery. I don't know why. People say if you want to make a small fortune out of brewing, start with a large one. So our second response is to look at other opportunities to supplement our offer. and we're getting on with time, so I'll go through these. But we need to extend our global reach. So China, for example, in 2017, China will become the biggest beer producer. It will exceed America's beer production. We have 11 members in China, and there are 1.3 billion people. I've managed to get some funding along with Lancaster University, who run a China Catalyst program, which is really interesting. And what they do is they facilitate finding partners in China, along with providing a couple of MSc students to do various things like translation, design, development across a whole range of fields. And I know that we can't be successful in China unless we can overcome some of the barriers. So, for example, we test people at the lower levels of examinations, we test them online. The Chinese firewall means we can't actually get across, we can't get that information either way. So we have to have a partner on the other side. I've talked briefly about growing the market in terms of other educational qualifications. There's a big market for craft distilling and also for cider making, those of you who don't like beer, wine or spirits. I need to develop the craft interest in qualifications, further address the gender imbalance, which is about us having the right policies in place, and also advertising the fact. I mean, next year we'll have our first ever woman president, which is great. So getting that message across. A key pillar, and I'd be really interested in talking to anybody who's gone down the e-learning route, is to increase the use and extent of e-learning. That is the only way that I can see of achieving real scale globally, and to have control of a lot of the content and have a really excellent platform. And if we have an excellent platform and an excellent content, then we can compete. We've talked about extending the use of CPD, and in order to do that, and I'll come on to the Beer Academy in a minute, in order to do that, we're going down the registrations route. So we will provide registration for brewers and distillers when they reach their highest level on the basis that they do CPD and on the basis they remain members. At the moment, once you've taken your diploma and master brewer or master distiller exams, you don't have to be a member. And you don't have to be a member in order to practice. So unlike accountancy or surgery or whatever, you can practice without it. So finally, I just want to touch on our trading activity, because we've learned some lessons here. It always looked to be a good thing. So the Beer Academy is, we bought for £1 in 2007, and the purpose is to educate, enlighten and infuse all those that are involved in the beer sector, from brewer to drinker, to give beer the image that it deserves. There are 84 different styles of beer. You might not know that, but there's a lot of beer out there of different types. And this was a way of actually engaging with, particularly with the retail sector. And to get people to serve beer correctly is a way to sell beer and to be educated. I went into an independent cinema, and I got given a pint of cloudy beer, and I knew the brewer and I knew the beer, and I said, "Sorry, this isn't right." And she said, "It is. It's craft beer. That's how it comes." And it's like, okay, so there's an educational piece to do there. So we developed an online training package called the Beer Steward, and we got this really wrong. We actually thought there was going to be a huge demand for this by retailers. We thought pub companies were going to beat the path to our door, and you can see here that, and it's a small thing. We're only talking about £9,000 a year, but actually on our income, that's actually quite a big mistake. So we had a break-even bulk price, a break-even bulk number of tests of 2,600, and a break-even for the one-off of 900. This is what we actually did last year. So you can see we're woefully short, and now we're trying to actually back out of, how do we get out of this? Because we've got we've got a liability here, because people have bought the test but not taking it. So real danger signals. So I'm going to conclude with the three lessons, I think. One is that we use our strengths to grow income outside of our membership base along the qualification route. Secondly, we diversify income with the diversity of our membership in mind. So we really play to each category of membership. And thirdly, and this is like the blindingly obvious, but we use a low-risk model to test new ideas.